I do want to say something real quick, man. There are two projects that I'm really anticipating in hip hop. One of them is the Liz 2, which we don't have a date on, which we're hearing. You kind of went out for a second, Coop. You good?
No, what
Okay, you
happened?
good? All right, yeah, I see you now.
Yeah.
The Liz 2 from Armani Caesar, and we don't have a date on that yet, but we're hearing that there's going to be a date soon. I'm really anticipating that, and I'm really anticipating Friday getting this Quavo and Takeoff Few album.
Um, to the Armani Caesar thing, um, I I finally watched the Paula Dean video.
Hmm.
I didn't love the video,
I
and
like the video.
I didn't love the video, and I was actually watching the video this morning when I was at work for a minute, and that's what made me want to hear the cipher again. Like, because I wanted to make sure, like, she killed it the way I thought that she killed it when I got home last night.
Whoa, hold up. 1021, the Liz 2? Is that official, Darren Harris? Okay. Go ahead.
I
I'm
like
sorry.
that. No, you're fine. I like that. You can definitely interrupt
Breaking
me for a Liz
news.
update.
Yeah.
But, I mean, her ball game and her voice right now, Mike, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited with you. Not as excited about Few, but I was just like on IG seeing like the preview that they just like, they just had their little preview down here the other night. And I know a couple people that were in the room that were,
So have you
fairly
heard
impressed.
pieces of the album?
I haven't, but
Okay.
I know somebody who has and was pretty impressed, but they're more of a fan like you are too. So, you know.
Listen, I
I don't know
think
what
that
the objectivity looks like because of where the source because of my source.
right.
Because
I
my
think the
source is kind
thing
of like
is
you, and like, because here's the thing too. It's like I think for you as a fan, and I say this respectfully because I enjoy Culture One, but don't consider myself to be a fan like you. I think you were looking for reasons to like Culture Two more than I did.
I didn't
Is
like
that fair?
Culture 2 like that.
Was it three? I feel like we had a
I didn't
conversation
like
where,
3 either. I think
yeah,
it just was it was a decline from 1, 2 to 3. I think 2 was just too long, and 3, I think we talked about this on the show. It lacked that chemistry, and I think that the chemistry that we were looking for exists in Quavo and Takeoff. Um, I saw a little bit of their Big Facts interview where they were talking about. Well, it was a clip about the breakup, somewhat,
yeah.
and yeah, and Quavo's kind of like, it's a duo now, and you know how I feel about the fact that I think that Quavo's probably one of the best group leaders hip hop's ever seen.
How? I mean,
I don't.
okay, so when you say that, okay, that's like saying, I'm trying to think of like a great player on a bad team, like that had
They're
like a
not a
great season
bad
or two.
team though,
No, no,
bro.
no, no,
Like
no. Listen to what
they've
I'm
done some
saying.
great
Like,
things.
like there have been teams. Like, do you remember? Like, I feel like, you remember like some of those like '80s Utah Jazz teams that had like Adrian Dantley and like other guys on, and Alex English, like Adrian Dantley and like Alex English.
Yeah, I
Like
know what you're
you
talking about.
remember like those Nuggets and those Utah Jazz teams.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there was a Hall of Fame player on those teams, respectively, in Alex English and Adrian Dantley. But when you look at it in the lexicon of Hall of Fame players, neither one of those guys are considered. Do you think Adrian Dantley or Alex English are top 75 players?
I think because of where they played and what they didn't play for, it's hard to really put them in that conversation. But I don't
Right.
think that applies to the Migos, though.
No. I'm speaking about Quavo being like the only potential Hall of Fame player, and he might be a great leader, Mike. But it really doesn't matter if you like don't like make it to like the championship. And Culture is like they're really the only time making it to the championship round. The rest of the stuff has been disappointing.
I think this is the thing, though. And again, we're in a different era. I think that we're in an era of people making hit records. And when it comes to making hit records over the past 10 years, you'd be hard pressed to find many people who have more hit records than this guy's put his voice on, and
But
the
what I would,
collective, and the
but what
fact that
I,
they're a group in an era of soloists. You know what I'm saying? Like
That I'll give you.
And because there aren't groups. And so the way songs are manufactured now, they're not even made for groups. Niggas ain't sitting around here listening to 3 verses anymore. They made that possible.
I will agree with you on all of those accounts. You're actually making some strong statements with that. What I'm trying to tell you is that those hits that you're talking about, like, I don't know where you've been, Mike, but it's like we're like getting to be closer to 5, 6, 7 years removed from those hits you're talking about. Because the stuff that's really been coming out the last 3, 4 years, I wouldn't call these songs hits. It's like they kind of cycle through for a week or two, or maybe for a month. That's not a hit, Mike. So he might be making some quality stuff, but he ain't been making hits like that. They haven't been making hits like that. That was kind of the thing with Culture. Culture is like full of hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They set the bar very high. And I think when it comes to the split, a lot of people will point to Bad and Bougie when it comes to Offset, and they'll point to Cardi B and those things. But for me, in my personal opinion, I think the separation came when Offset did 10 million with Ric Flair Drip. And those are some things that, I mean, he knew he could do it as a soloist, and he did it as a solo artist on that record, and that record's everywhere. And I think that from that point, we've kind of seen a level of separation and disengagement when it comes to him and the rest of the group.
So I'm gonna say this respectfully. If I can just give you a quick rebuttal before you go further, and let's
go ahead.
Now, Mike, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and like coming from Charlotte in the era that I grew up in, and my older cousins being who they are, and what wrestling is in Charlotte, there's nothing bigger than putting Ric Flair on something. One of the biggest surprises of my adult life, like in my 30s and now 40s, is the way Ric Flair is to everybody else, how he was to us in Charlotte. So just Quavo putting the name Ric Flair Drip on the song off the rip, and it being Quavo. Oh, well, that's $5 million right there,
Offset.
Mike. And so that's not about the quality of the song or it being a hit.
That's
$5 million off rip by calling the song Ric Flair Drip and it being Quavo.
This is Offset song.
Offset
song. Yeah,
Mike, that makes it like a little bit better, but you get what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying, and I think
I've told you about my Ric Flair stories. He literally might be the most charismatic and entertaining person I have ever met face to face.
I've met him a few times too, but what I'm saying is the fact that solo venture for Offset and doing that, I think, is what separated him from the group. And I agree with you. I think what he's finding out now is that was more about the Ric Flair name than the song itself, the success of that song.
Right. That's what I mean. So this is what I mean. They're not making really hits anymore. It's just all of their names are so big. I'm sorry for getting it wrong because you're right. That is Offset's song. But what I'm saying is their names are so big and the way that they kind of label and tag their songs down, it's like, well, that don't make it a hit. Like, what's that? It's that quality thing, Mike. And I want to get into this with
you. You don't think Straightening was a hit?
I think it was more pop culture reference than hit. That's what I mean.
Well, they created the pop culture reference with that.
They did.
Yeah. We talking about the same group that created the dab. We talking about the same group that did, Bando and that whole subgenre there. We talking about the same group that did Hannah Montana.
No.
Yeah.
You're right. No, and you're saying things that are true. Is Straightening the quality of record that those other records just named? Because like even with the whole Look at My Dad, like no, that record's just more entertaining than Straightening.
No, I agree with you. CJ Kid with the super chat says, did you guys watch Black Star Explanation on the backlash that they have been getting? They addressed, was it Fantino? But I feel you guys had a lot to do with their response, low key. We're going to talk about that. We had a lot of conversations about that as well. So
I was about to say, we're going to get into that. That's definitely on the docket. I told you, Mike. Other people heard that interview and said the same thing that I said. I was like, hold on. I was like, what are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about me and Mike.
We're gonna get to that. And I want to handle this with a level of sophistication. Because I think there's a big part that they're missing, but we'll get to that. Fantasy.
Yeah, we 7. Are. You and I talked about it. I think I think we're both disappointed and concerned with some things, and because of that, we have to like address it a certain type of way as
Yeah, I
well.
mean,
So
because the
like
music's
we're
never
understood
been the
more clearly.
concern. The music has
Maybe,
never been the concern. I think we've said
yeah.
a million times on this show, this could possibly be album of the year if we talking
Well,
about the music
I
itself.
mean, here's the reality of the matter, and we can just hold it off. This album not being album of the year started with the people on here telling us like, nah, that album ain't like that. They ain't like that, and started running down the critiques on us.
Yeah,
All right, the
I tried
people
to
gave it
defend
to
it.
us, and that's what made me stop and think. It's like, well, hold on, because
Yeah,
we'll get into it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fantasy 731 says, "What do you guys think about Kenny Mason and Grip? Both are artists to me. Novice is also another great artist. Y'all should check out. We'll check him out. I've heard a few things from Kenny.
Me too. I
Not
was
too
like
much on
thinking, I
Grip.
don't know the other two, but I know Kenny Mason.
Yeah. CJ Kid with the super chat says, you guys see Joe Budden put Jay-Z over Nas on the complex bracket based off of his God did verse and still acknowledged KD2 and Magic. Shaking my head. You know, Joe Budden got bills to pay, as we all do, but
Let's say,
yeah,
yeah,
it is what it is, man.
it's very problematic.
Jason says, what was the last classic hit that we got? Love the verses. Keep doing what you're doing. Peace. Yeah, we appreciate that. Actually, the Patreon's at the top of the chat. We had fun doing the Brooklyn and Queens verses, and it's been close the whole time. The poll's still going. I mean, we'll probably go in and check out some of them songs if we got some time and check out some of the matchups, but it was really fun. But what was the last classic hit we got from the Migos, I guess they're saying?
That's a fair question.
It probably have to go back to honestly Culture One. I think they put out quality songs since then.
They've done good songs since then.
Yeah.
You want to know what the last song that I heard?
You know what I really like? Not to cut you off. I Need It. I Need It was fire. Where they used that same sample that 50 used on the Master.
Was that the Pandemic song?
Mm-hmm.
The one before Stripper Bowl?
Yeah, the Draco Undefeated. Hit your block and then I bleed it. The one with NBA Youngboy. That shit was hard.
Yes.
And if not for the pandemic, it would have been way bigger.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that one. Yeah, that was the last one that I remember. I can't even remember the name of the record. I'm like, the one before Stripper Bowl. Yeah, that's the one. That's the last banger.
Stripper Bowl.
But what was that, Mike? That was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago. It wasn't 5.
No, I mean they're big. I'm just getting into quality. I told you, Mike, like Bad and Bougie and T-shirts are like on an all-time like Atlanta club playlist, and that's hard to do.
Yeah,
hard to do.
Great records, and you know, I think what gives me hope too is when I hear like the DJ Khaled and I hear the Party song with Takeoff and Quavo, where they sample Eddie Murphy. That shit's hard.
Did you like Drip with Cardi? Came through dripping, drip.
Nah, I didn't.
Dripping. You didn't like Drip?
Nah, it didn't really stick to me like that. It was cool.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking forward to seeing what Quavo and Takeoff are able to do because we know that they got chemistry. We know they're able to make hits with each other. And I think that depending on how this album turns out, I think it will validate some of my statements of how high I hold Quavo and his ability to keep this group together and let everybody else shine. You know what I'm saying? Because I think from the jump, everybody knows that from the jump with Hannah Montana and Bando and Versace, he was the focal point. He's the hook guy. He's probably going to start off the song. He was the star. But even with that being the focal point with them walking in the door, somehow he was able to delegate to the point where Offset becomes a star. Right? And then we've seen moments where Takeoff's able to be a star. Not every group leader can do that. Like I don't think Q-Tip, in my opinion, was able to do that successfully. He did a great thing with the low end theory, and I think Spife was able to shine more, but he was still Q-Tip. You know what I'm saying?
Right. He didn't change anything. He still made sure Q-Tip got his rocks off.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I think that even though we got Butter and even though we got Bugging Out, Q-Tip was still like Yeah.
The main, the nucleus,
Yeah.
the central force.
Now it's to go with the super chat says, did y'all see what Clark Kent rated Jay-Z's verse God did as his best feature on B. Dot Bracket show? Wow, shaking my head. That's what's free and what we do in others over what's free and what we do in others. You know that's wild, man. That's Clark Kent. Clark Kent's
Just,
been there from the beginning. Clark Kent was there
just,
before Jay even put down
they just
records.
be they just be saying foolish stuff, Mike. What about Jay's appearance on "I Love the Dough" on Life After Death? Miraculous, pockets stay full, niggas pick the ball because we mad at all. Snatch a penny. Come on,
See, you
man.
know, we try to have shows where we're not talking about Jay-Z and Nas, and y'all bring these things up.
No, that's just wrong that he did that. He knows better, Mike.
I'm just gonna say
The
this.
stuff that he gave Bleak on What You Think of That, on Hypnotic, the stuff that he gave Beans on It's On, and Uncut Raw. Like come on,
I
man.
mean,
Like come
his
on.
verse, his feature on the College Dropout is better.
Mike, come on. The verse on Black Republican is better.
It is.
Like, come on.
The verse on Black Republican is crazy.
Way better. It's way better than
it's not
this
even
verse.
a conversation, man.
He murdered that. Like,
And since we're on that, man, Joe Budden,
come on.
Joe Budden, man, you gotta chill, man. You can't put one verse over two quality albums. You're an artist, Joe Budden. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how hard it is to put together albums.
Do you remember when Jay rapped over the "Who Shot You" beat?
Mm-hmm, I love that
cruise shit? Like, come on, get out of here.
Leroy said Clark Kent didn't say it was his best verse. Okay, good. I'll go find it, and we'll get some context to it. You remember, while we're speaking of Jay, and we'll move on, but you remember, what song was that? I think it's called Hova. It was on the DJ Envy.
Yes.
Watch on rims on tire. Hove in the studio, the booth's on fire. S Carter kicks on my feet. Rockaway on my leg, Envy on the beat. I make my first meal off Poppy on the hill. I made it on the rap game, speaking on the reels. I passed the statute of limitation, and I'm making too much money to be going to jail. That record was crazy.
Like jigging my niggas on a Rough Riders compilation.
Yeah. Who else
the
you know on
song's
probation?
A feature.
What did he say? Who else you know on probation? Leave the country for a month to go on vacation. Listen, Nugs, get your brain on drugs. Listen, bud, because the flow's like cocaine dust. Heron hero. Do anything for De Niro. Like Joe Pesci. Hove is so deadly. In the middle of the ocean, racing on jet skis. Get your mind right or get it on your left sleeve. Woo! And y'all say we Jay-Z haters, man. I'm a fan. I'm a
big fan.
I'm a big
it's
fan.
Not that I'm just a fan, Mike. It's that I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
I quote stuff off Volume 1 like it happened like 2 or 3 years ago, religiously.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you didn't use Biggie and Jay as much as I thought you would have in the Brooklyn matchup, man. What I noticed, though, from our research, or from my research with Queens, and the way you were responding to my records, Brooklyn got those hardcore records. It was tough for me to match some of the hardcore records. I had to match them with big records. Queens got the big records.
See, that's what I mean is like you had the pure hip-hop records. I had bangers.
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn makes bangers. And it was like, well, I'm not going to try to play your game and play pure hip-hop records. Like, I'm going to play bangers. Like, I only played a few pure hip-hop records, Mike, like The Symphony.
Yeah.
Dead Presidents.
Dead Presidents beating Made You Look. I wasn't looking for. I'm glad it happened because I would have voted that way, but I thought Made You Look was going to be a win for me.
And so, but what I was surprised by was that how people always took the classic hip hop song over the banger. Like when people, like I told you, it's like the world is yours. Who shot your thing? And I'm just going to leave it right there. I'm not going to say anymore. You got to sign up for the Patreon.
Yeah, definitely. The Patreon's at the top of the link. At the top of the chat, excuse me. Jay Short says, Hot Boys and Migos. This is what I'll say.
Hot Boys.
Hot Boys just didn't do enough. But yes, in a vacuum, Hot Boys. I mean, because they're a group, three-fourths of successful soloists. Juvenile's
Just
a whole problem.
you want to know what? You know when I realized they were big, Mike? When The Block Is Hot came out, and Juvenile and BG were doing the hook together for Wayne shit. That's
Yeah.
when I was like, oh, I was like, they're really, really big. They're really, really dope. Really
Migos,
dope. This record's dope.
I think that Quavo specifically follows the Hot Boys formula. And I think that one year, it might have been the year they dropped Culture 2. 2017, they dropped all solo efforts. And it reminded me of those Cash Money days because all of those solo efforts kind of sounded like they were Migo records, but they were just, you know what I'm saying? Like they were just solo songs. Like they all could have been done in the same session. It's like, okay, well, this song goes to you, whatever, whatever. Except for Offset. Offset didn't end up coming out in that year because he kept pushing his album back and he wanted a different sound than everybody else, seems like.